Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. If you have not watched the previous video, I would encourage you to do so right before this lesson. Remember, we pasted and glued some things into our INB, and today's essential question is, well, number one, we're going to be multiplying decimals and whole numbers. Our essential question is, when you finish this lesson, you'll be able to model and multiply a whole number and a decimal. So what we need in here, we need the decimal models, and we also need some colored pencils. So giant tortoises move very slowly, and then they can travel a distance of 1,700 miles in 1 hour. If a giant tortoise can travel at the same speed, how far can it move in 4 hours? We completed letter A. Complete the statement to describe the problem. I need to find out how many total miles are in 4 groups of 1,700s. When I write the expression to represent the problem, I can say 4 times 1,700s, or I can say 1,700s times 4. It really doesn't matter. It's whatever fits your fancy. We used a decimal model to find out the answer, and it says, what does each small square, just one of those little bitty squares right there, represent in this decimal model? Well, since this is a hundreds grid and I shade 1, it's 1 out of 100. If I write it as a decimal, it's 0 ones, 0 tenths, and 100th. It says we're going to shade 4 squares to represent the distance. Now, how far did the distance of the tortoise travel? The distance is 0 and 1,700ths, not 4 squares, but 0 and 1,700 squares to represent the distance a giant tortoise can move in 1 hour. We're going to use a colored pencil to shade each additional group of 4 squares until we have 17, or 4 groups. We have 4 groups of 17 squares. Additional groups of not 4 here, guys. Again, it's 1,700 squares until we have 4 groups of 17. I've done the first grouping here. We've done 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and now I want to shade 17 more. So I know here is one group of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So now I have 2 groups of 17. Now again, that's only 2 groups, and I need 4 groups. So here we go again. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 10 more is 16. And 1 more is 17. And our last grouping here is 9. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Or I can start at the top and go 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So when I count up all of those squares, I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68. So I have 68 squares. So the giant tortoise can move 0 and 68 hundredths of a mile in 4 hours. Let's go to the top of the next page. Now, when they did this modeling here, it didn't really reflect what we had. They just put in some base 10 blocks. But this one says that we have 3 groups. So I'm going to draw 3 circles. And it tells me that there are 4 longs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 longs in each, and then 6 unit cubes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in each one. Now I made 3 groups that had 4/10 and 6/100, remembering that a square is equal to a flat. So I'm going to count my longs here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we know that 10 represents one flat when we regroup. So I'm going to go ahead and regroup those as one flat. Now remember, I'm doing decimal values. So how many longs did I have left? Only had 2 longs left. And now I'm going to count my units. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh my goodness. If I have 10 of those, it reverts to another long. So I'm going to go ahead and mark those off. Now all I have to do is count my units. So there's 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What did that represent? One flat, 3 longs, and 8 unit cubes.